Hello, happy people. Boy, do I have a special review for you today by Lord Dunsany. Today we're going to be taking a look at the only thing by Lord Dunsany that I've actually now read 3 times. Up until now, it was the only thing I'd read twice, but I went ahead and reread it for you last night as a part of the deep dive into Lord Dunsany that I'm doing as a part of this collection that was published by Penguin Classics. As you can see here, this includes a lot of his stuff from his various fantasies and that sort of a thing. Lord Dunsany was a heavily influential writer. Particularly in the fantasy genre, where he wrote things like The Gods of Pegana, which I've already reviewed for you, and other major, the King of Elfland's Daughter, which I've also already reviewed for you, a novel heavily influential. And he's influenced everybody from H.P. Lovecraft to Lynn Carter in the Middle eras, to modern people like Neil Gaiman. So he's heavily influential. And a lot of people have emulated and copied the sort of things that he's had. Now, where I have come across this short story before is in this Cthulhu Mythos collection that I have. This is a Chaosium book in the Cthulhu Mythos, and this is in the Cthulhu cycle, and this has a lot of short stories in it that all deal with the old one, Cthulhu from the Cthulhu Mythos proper. Now, the editor of this collection begins this collection with this short story by Lord Dunsany. And it's not in the Cthulhu Mythos, it's not by Lovecraft, right? It doesn't feature Cthulhu like the other things in here do. So why is this in the beginning of this collection, which I've now read twice as part of this collection? And the reason is that there is an aside that takes place in this short story, which is about 8 pages long, and the aside's about a page long, maybe a little, maybe one paragraph more, one paragraph less, something like that. But there is an aside that where our primary character encounters he's in a shop by Go-By Street. And he encounters this room that has some idols in it. And so him and the shopkeeper talk about these idols. And there's a deep theological conversation about these gods that are represented by these idols. And the idea is that these gods are sleeping and are no longer actively influencing the world. But they will, again, someday. They'll just wake up. And begin to influence the world again. And that they are dreaming right now, and their dreams are still impacting the world. And this idea of a dreaming key figure who is influencing the world while he sleeps and will rise again is exactly what happens in the short story The Call of Cthulhu, which kicks off the Cthulhu Mythos in a major way. Although there are some short stories that share elements of the Cthulhu, like the Necronomicon and so forth, that were published beforehand by Lovecraft. The Call of Cthulhu is the beginning of the Cthulhu Mythos proper. And so in that sense, that idea of the sleeping Cthulhu that's rising from under the sea, that's impacting people's dreams around the world, is something that you get from just a theological aside from this short story. So the editor of this collection, Robert Price, has argued in this collection that his inclusion of it in here is because he believes that this is where Lovecraft got this central idea from of Cthulhu writ large, and the key short story in the Cthulhu Mythos, The Call of Cthulhu. So that's why it's in this collection, and that's why I've read it multiple times now. Twice before now, and again I read it last night for the 3rd time. This is a sequel to the story that I've just reviewed for you, Idle Days on the Yon. The main character is also the main character in this one too. I mentioned in my previous review that he tells the people that he's adventuring with in the land of the dreaming, that he's going to the land of dreaming much less frequently than he has been, and so he doesn't know when he's going to come back. So now we're going to pick up, and it's been 2 years in this person's life, and he still wants to get back to the dreaming. He wants to revisit the Yon. He has given up some of his political office. So our Irish point of view character has given up some of his political office. He now has more time to focus on the dreamlands. So he wants to dream again and go to them. But his dreams aren't taking him to the land of dreams, the fantasy world that you activate by dreaming. And So he's searching for another avenue. And that brings him to Go By Street. And Go By Street is a street that's off the Strand in London that he is searching for answers to find a place. And there's a shop on this street with the shopkeeper that we've already talked about. He goes to the shopkeeper. He asks for something the shopkeeper is unable to provide. He asks for these 2 rivers from Damascus, and they're all out of stock of those rivers. These ancient rivers. And so he says, is there something else I can help you out with? And he's like, can you get me to the land of the dreams again? And so they have a conversation about the land of their dreams. They have the conversation about the idols and that sort of a thing. It's an 8-page short story. That's about 3 or 4 pages into the short story. So I'll leave you there. I'll let you figure out what happens for the last 4 pages or so of the short story. But there you are. A shop in Go By Street. It's very influential on the Cthulhu mythos, according to Robert Price. Do I think it's influential? I can see it. I definitely, there are definitely some Dunsanian influences, not just with Lovecraft's fantasy works, which are directly lifted. The idea of going to dreams and fantasy worlds from Dunsany. But you can also see some of his influences in the Cthulhu mythos too proper. For example, there is a short story in the Gods of Pagana, which I've already reviewed for you, which is 1 page long. It won't take much of your time. It's called Of Skarl the Drummer. And the idea of this character is that there is this drummer who drums a drum beat. And while he is drumming, the powerful god sleeps. And this powerful god sleeps. And this super powerful god will continue to sleep for as long as Skarl continues to drum his drum. And this is the god who created the world and is going to destroy the world. And once Skarl stops once he awakens, he'll destroy the world, and then he will leave. And then Skarl, like the last line of Skarl the Drummer is, and of what Skarl shall do then, none shall know. But this basic idea is that Skarl is drumming to keep the head god asleep. And this idea of actively keeping the key god asleep is something that you see in the key god Azathoth, who is one of the big bads in the Cthulhu mythos. He's one of the rulers. And so you see this idea that comes from Of Skarl the Drummer from the Gods of Pagana by Lord Dunsany in the Cthulhu mythos proper, the horror aspects of Lovecraft's writings. So you don't just see Dunsanian influences in Lovecraft's fantasy works, although that's clear and blatant and obvious. You also see them in his horror elements too. So I respect Robert Price too much to disagree with him, and I think he's probably right. I do think that this is probably an influence on the Cthulhu aspects, specifically in the Call of Cthulhu, more generally, with regards to this idea that he gets from the short story and the theological aside that takes place in this short story. I'll link you below to my collection from Penguin Classics. I'll also try to find you it online. His stuff is, from my research, has passed its copyright date, so you can read A Shop and Go By Street at your leisure. And then there you go. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. I think it's a strong story. I think it's an 8 out of 10. And it's incredibly well written. And the theological side didn't have a major impact on horror, generally, and the Cthulhu mythos specifically. So there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Have you read it? What did you think of it? Did you agree or disagree with my review? Would you like to unpack some of the things that I didn't talk about, like the last 4 pages? The spoiler aspects that I try to keep my reviews, except for the first chapter, first 2 pages, spoiler-free. I would be more than happy to engage you with it further in the comments below. If you like this video, why not hit that subscribe button? Because there's going to be a lot more of these that follow in fantasy, like this one, science fiction, and horror. And then finally, hey, I want to thank you so very much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives and are pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have a great day.